approach is slightly different to the other three. I'm going to read from some prepared notes pertaining to the story that I'm going to read from, but I'm going to talk more and read less. So this is a particular story from my collection. The story that I'm going to read from is called A Legacy of Hatred. It is the last story in my book entitled The Beast and Other Stories, published by Saraswati. This story is different from the other stories in my book because it is a blend of fiction and non-fiction. Even though the story is only 9 pages long, there is a great deal of political history packed into it. The themes include politics, ethnic violence, art, depression, and suicide. The non-fiction part deals with a specific timeline in Sri Lanka's colonial and post-colonial history, culminating in the 1958 ethnic riots. Certain political landmarks figure prominently in this story, including the passing into law of the Sinhala Only Act in 1956 and the abrogation of the Bandaranaike-Tevanagam Pact in 1958. The latter half of the 50s was a turbulent period in Sri Lanka's early post-independence history, which is why it serves as a focal point for this story. The non-fiction component connects with the fiction component vis-a-vis a family living in Mineria. I chose Mineria as a point of intersection because one of the worst affected areas in respect of the 1958 ethnic riots was Polonnaruwa district. Although there was a great deal of violence in many parts of Polonnaruwa, including Mineria, the specific event I have described in my story is a product of my imagination. However, I should mention that some of the murders that occurred in Polonnaruwa and Anuradhapura and Ampara were extremely brutal, as reported by respected journalists. The narrator of the story is a 70-year-old man by the name of T.K. Mahanama, who was born in 1948. The narrator's parents are dead, and so is his younger sister, Pavitra. She was a self-taught watercolor artist who was so traumatized by what she witnessed in Mineria in 1958 that she became severely depressed. She never came out of the depression and eventually committed suicide. The last painting she produced depicts a thug slaughtering a pregnant woman in cold blood. A legacy of hatred is symbolized by this painting, which is titled Himsa, malevolence, the opposite of ahimsa, benevolence. Several decades later, T.K. Mahanama is putting it up for sale because he cannot bear to look at it anymore. Now, I will do a very short reading before we proceed to the next section.